Now, you talked about getting all this praise and adulation when you transition, and one of the transgender activists who's world famous now, Dylan Mulvaney, is certainly getting a plenty of that, as well as corporate endorsements. He's getting big brands giving him not just a platform, but a paycheck. He's an ambassador now for Bud Light, Walmart, Ollie Henriksen, KitchenAid, Mac, Tampax, Native, and amongst other companies. And the latest of these brands is Bud Light. Have a look at this.
This month I celebrated my day 365 of womanhood, and Bud Light sent me possibly the best gift ever, a can with my face on it. Check out my Instagram story to see how you can enjoy March Madness with Bud Light and maybe win some money too.
This ad has been widely mocked, and I can't imagine how they think this is going to be speaking to their target market. Why brands jumping on Dylan Mulvaney and other trans activists to push their product, even where there seems to be quite a divide between their target market and the person they've chosen as an ambassador?
Absolutely. We see so many big billion-dollar corporations now sponsoring people like Dylan Mulvaney. No, Dylan even had a brand deal with Tampax previously. Now a Bud Light, which is a drink that predominantly targets men, has now decided that, hey, we need to get with the trend. Everybody that's trans is cool right now. Let's hop on the trend and pay Dylan Mulvaney tens of thousands of dollars to sponsor our products. And it really is a slap in the face. Imagine being a woman your whole life and you don't get celebrated, you don't get that praise, whereas Dylan has been a girl, as he calls himself, for 365 days, and this is his reward, to get a major brand deal with a beer company that targets men. I mean, it's just beyond a joke at this point.
Oh, absolutely. It's been pretty lucrative for Dylan, it seems. But some of the products, like you mentioned, just absurd. Tampax, women's sanitary products. But this is almost just as absurd as far as a corporate endorsement goes.
It's a she-they outfit of the day. Comes the bride. Oh, whoa. I'm getting a little emotional. Growing up, I never thought I'd be able to get married, let alone wear a wedding dress.
A bridal wear, of course. Why would you pick someone other than Dylan for that? I mean, it almost doesn't warrant comment. Now, I want to talk about something very serious now, because you spoke about detransitioning and how detransitioners are attacked. And I want to play a video of Luca Hain, who shares her detransition story and her transition story, and it really is quite harrowing. Have a look.
The very first medical intervention I ever had was a double mastectomy at 16. And then a few months later, I was put on testosterone. I'm now 21, and I will live with the impacts of that so-called care for the rest of my life. In the past 4 or 5 months, I have watched as my body has fallen apart in front of me, my joints constantly hurting, my vocal cords aching, watching as parts of me atrophy away before my very eyes. And yet at 16, they looked me in the eyes and they told me this was care. They told me it would save me. Despite the fact I was never suicidal, my parents were baited with the idea of, would you rather have a dead daughter or a living son? Bullied into going along with it.
Ollie, it's just another heartbreaking story, and what was inflicted on her and others in that similar situation in the name of care, in the name of compassion and inclusion. In my mind, it's criminal. I mean, how can you perform a double mastectomy on a confused 16-year-old? These are irreversible treatments.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we see kids that are 15 or 14 having double mastectomies now. They're pushing for younger and younger ages, which is just absolute a travesty. All of these young, vulnerable people are already vulnerable. Many of them have pre-existing conditions. They have mental health struggles. They do not need to be told by a doctor. The only way we can fix the way you're feeling inside is to medically transition your body. And what Luca was saying there, we see this time and time again. Doctors coerce parents into transitioning their kids. They say, if you do not affirm this child's gender, you are going to have a dead child. So they like to use that coercion tactic. And it works because so many parents are pushed into this by these doctors because, if you go to a doctor's, Rita, you trust them, you think they're a professional, they have knowledge. So these parents put trust into these doctors, and these doctors betray them. They betray their moral ethics to protect every single patient, and it really is criminal, like you said.
I tell you, the situation in Australia is even worse because if the parents don't buy into this, they can have their authority removed. The child can be removed from their care because it is seen as abuse. And we've had a case in the courts where a child was removed because the parents wanted them to receive counselling, not medical drugs and other medical intervention in their gender confusion. It really is just such a tragedy, and I think we're going to hear a lot more of these stories in the coming years. Now, finally, I want to ask you about Rachel Levine. NBC News has said that she's among trans trailblazers, but you say her record speaks for itself. Tell us why you think this is such a ill-considered award.
So Rachel Levine is the US Assistant Secretary of Health and Human Services, meaning she's second in command of the health services of the United States. There have been leaked emails from Rachel Levine discussing with the gender clinic the return on investment and profitability of a clinic that was transitioning teenagers. So he was basically exposed for transitioning kids and talking about profiting from it. This person recently said as well in a statement during Transgender Visibility Day that their mission is to normalize this. Their mission is to get more kids transitioning. Biden has issued his full support. Just a few days ago for Trans Day of Visibility, Biden issued a statement reaffirming his commitment and the Department of Health's commitment to transitioning kids and making this normal. We can never allow this to be normal. We just saw that brave detransitioner, Luca Hine, talking about the abuse and trauma she had suffered because of this. So people like Rachel being named a trailblazer and also the USA Woman of the Year in 2022. This person is actually dangerous. They even said themselves they're so glad they didn't transition as a kid because they would never have had their kids themselves. They would never have become a parent.
True.
So why on earth would Rachel want to deny other people having kids? Because these surgeries really do mess up the body.
Very good point, and that is something that is quite often lost. We talk about these irreversible treatments, but some of the impact can mean that the person who is transitioned at a very young age becomes sterile, and that is, again, an absolute tragedy, and surely a 15, 16-year-old can't consent to something that has got such lifelong consequences. How could they possibly fully understand the scope of what's happening? Ollie London, thank you so much, and we'll speak to you again soon.
Thanks, Rita. Take care.